Biden looks to recapture his political momentum with a full-court press on his domestic agendaIt, all part of an effort to put himself more at the center of the legislative process, a place the longtime Delaware senator feels very comfortable. Acutely aware of the stakes, Biden has begun more directly involving himself in the strategy to see his priorities passed this autumn. He meets daily in the Oval Office with senior advisors for updates on legislative process and messaging strategy, repeatedly asking them to find ways to better explain the complicated and wide-ranging proposals in ways Americans can understand.
The challenges of centering attention on the economic front were laid bare Friday afternoon. A string of unrelated developments presented setbacks for the White House. The Pentagon announced the drone strike in Kabul that Biden once touted as killing ISIS-K terrorists had actually killed 10 civilians. A Food and Drug Administration panel rejected an application to provide vaccine boosters to people over 16, though it endorsed the shots for people 65 and older and those at high risk of severe COVID. And the French government recalled its ambassador in Washington for consultations amid a transatlantic spat over submarines.
He is planning to invite lawmakers to the White House next week to press on the economic package, according to a person familiar with the matter. "Let's not squander this moment," Biden implored during a speech from the White House. Biden's attention turns toward Capitol Hill as a part of his recalibration to his domestic agenda. Biden has spent much more time speaking with Democrats on the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, both on the phone and in person. He spoke by telephone Thursday with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to confer on a path forward on his massive legislative agenda. The three are on regular touch and engaging daily on bringing Build Back Better to the finish line, the White House said afterward. In conversations with other Democrats during periodic congressional call time blocked off on his daily schedule, Biden has repeatedly stressed the importance of keeping intact the tangible benefits in the bills that can be easily sold to the American people, according to people familiar with the talks. He has stressed that items like free community college and subsidized child care are clear political winners he says Democrats can campaign on for months or years to come. He's been actively engaged over the last couple of months in helping members of Congress who are more centrist or who are progressive understand and embrace his agenda, said Senator Chris Coons, a Delaware Democrat who is close to the president. "President Biden is very persuasive," Coons said, "and I think he's making the case and making it well." Implicit in Biden's message, as well as those coming from his senior team, is also the clear reality of the moment, according to people familiar with the discussions. For Democrats, there is no alternative path at this point. The specific policy proposals may shift or shrink in scale or duration, but there is no turning back or a broad shift in course in the cards. White House tries to keep a level head. It is impossible to know whether Biden's current political predicament will last, and some of his aides are confident that improvements in the pandemic and distance from the chaotic Afghanistan withdrawal will help reverse the fall in approval. They note it is still more than a year before the 2022 midterm elections, when historically the sitting president's party suffers. A positive result for California's Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom, for whom Biden campaigned on the eve of his recall vote this week, has also led to renewed confidence in the administration's fights over mask wearing, vaccines and more. Biden's team, during last year's presidential campaign, prided itself on avoiding overly reactive steps when negative polls emerged. Officials stress there is no sense of panic in the West Wing, largely pointing to clear opportunities in the high-stakes weeks ahead as clear and tangible opportunities to shift the dynamics that overtook Biden's first summer in office. But like any political operation, advisors remain highly attuned to shifts in public sentiment, studying focus groups and surveys from top Democratic pollsters who work on behalf of the White House and the Democratic Party. To be sure, any comparisons in approval ratings between Biden and his predecessors are filled with caveats, given the acrid political climate and the remarkable changes in the presidency over the decades. The chaos that surrounded the Afghanistan withdrawal has led some advisors to recognize there is less room for error going forward. The drop in Biden's approval ratings has prompted what one advisor called a hardening of the president's mission to see his sweeping agenda passed. The White House softens on a $3.5 trillion price tag. This week, before leaving for his vacation home in Rehoboth Beach, Biden began meeting in person with moderate Democratic Sens Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona and Joe Manchin of West Virginia, hearing out their concerns about the amount of spending. With Manchin, he listened patiently to a proposal that would more than halve the size of the final bill. Biden has not endorsed that plan, but also hasn't yet had luck in convincing the skeptical Democrat to come along with his. In public, Biden has begun signaling the final bill could come in below $3.5 trillion, the figure proposed in an initial blueprint. White House officials acknowledge that's a near certainty at this point in order to secure the votes of Manchin and Sinema. The ever-present balancing act between moderates and progressives has become even more acute as a result. But Biden is pressuring Democrats to avoid stripping out what he believes will prove to be the bill's most salient selling points. This is what we're going to do over the next few weeks with the House and Senate, Klain said, listing items like childcare and climate change as essential factors to a final bill. You can go down the line. We think about this as an investment not just in people and spending but in economic growth, job creation, and doing the things we really need to do to build long-term growth. Progressives warned Biden that greater risk exists in significantly reducing his package than in passing something too large. They said his engagement with moderates like Manchin and Sinema is worthwhile, but that eroding the bill's safety net provisions would prove damaging in the long run. The world is not waiting.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.